Channel 11's last episode on Orwell's 1984 was a bit heavy. Today's episode will lighten things up considerably by simply moving up 1 year to 1985 to join Marty McFly and Doc Brown and have some fun with a topic everyone can more or less agree on. Back to the Future is an awesome film. So awesome that I can kiddingly say that if you're that rare person that doesn't like it, you're just wrong and are probably a terrible person. In which case, your opinion will be dismissed accordingly.
No!
Justin!
You're wrong. You're wrong and you're a stupid person.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Action, comedy, and drama are masterfully weaved together in 1985's Back to the Future, a rare film where entertainment and artistic vision simultaneously peak. Robert Zemeckis' home run of a film managed to appeal to a common audience without becoming common, in the lowest, dullest sense of the word. Back to the Future was popular, accessible, and excellent, all at the same time. It's a smart film that anyone can enjoy. So smart, in fact, that perhaps because of its genre, wasn't taken seriously by the Motion Picture Academy. Still, it was so undeniably good, it forced itself to be recognized. But that recognition was predictably relegated to the reductive status reserved for sci-fi, animation, and action-adventure films. A clever, pleasant diversion, a cinematic confection, a popcorn film. And while the Academy has made efforts in recent years to give greater consideration beyond dramatic films, Back to the Future was, somewhat poetically, a victim of its time. If this film had its own souped-up DeLorean, perhaps things could have been different, and Back to the Future could have earned at least a Best Picture nomination. This idea might seem silly to snooty film purists, but it deserved at least that much. And I'd even say that, among the nominated alternatives, it was the best picture of the year, with Witness being its closest competitor in terms of quality. With exception to a well-deserved Oscar nomination for writing, now called Best Original Screenplay, the Academy limited Back to the Future to technical secondary awards, a typical move for the Academy, one that seems designed to allow non-traditional, non-dramatic films to earn some recognition, but without allowing them to encroach on the territory reserved for more serious cinematic fare. Hollywood's managing culture seems to have a bit of an inferiority complex regarding itself compared to more exalted forms of expression, particularly its artistic sibling, stage acting.
The theater. What's happened to the theater?
It kind of makes sense that the film industry itself would reflect the kind of neuroticism associated with its actors. In this sense, I think Hollywood is a bit too hard on itself. The people in the Motion Picture Academy have no reason to feel insecure about film as an art form, and its lighter offerings needn't bear the brunt of that insecurity, as long as those offerings are good.
And the Oscar goes to Shakespeare in Love.
No way!
Back to the Future is very good. Even the title is great. It's a clever contradiction in 4 words that hints of its otherworldliness. I'm not exaggerating for effect. Coming in at a little under 2 hours, I struggle to think of anything this film doesn't get right. While it could be dismissed as a sci-fi popcorn flick, which is what the Motion Picture Academy essentially did to it in '86, the public knew better. And in this case, the public was right. Time has validated its artistic merit.
It's going to be really hard waiting 30 years before I can talk to you about everything that's happened in the past few days. I'm really going to miss you, Marty.
I'm really gonna miss you.
Any work of art, when done well, transcends its genre and elevates itself to an artistic pantheon of work, distinguished not by category, but by excellence. Even someone who doesn't like country music has to admit that Kenny Rogers' The Gambler is one hell of a song. Some things are so good that pretty much everyone has to give them their props. Restating the opening point, Back to the Future just does a lot of stuff really well. It's a magical, high-stakes action sci-fi dramedy, and not one element is neglected or succeeds at the expense of another. Original, clever scripts like this are rare, and when they're well executed, become classics. Praise must go to writer-director Robert Zemeckis and co-writer-co-producer Bob Gale. And here are 7 things that make it great. We're not splitting the atom here, but there will be some real fun, interesting nuggets to look at and consider.
Reasons! The reasons Back to the Future is an awesome film. 7 reasons why you should see the film.
We've already went over the first point. The second point is just as important. It applies not only to this film, but all films that have plot-dependent sequels, which could be a subject of its own video. I won't belabor the point. This is the only Back to the Future film that can stand firmly on its own. Any story can be sequelized, and if it makes money, will be sequelized. But not every sequel is a complete standalone story, and this includes most everyone's favorite Star Wars film, The Empire Strikes Back. And though it's arguably the best chapter in Star Wars, it's not a better single film than A New Hope. I expect some disagreement on this one, but this is judging a film by how well it fares on its own, independent of the other films in its series. Back to the Future, like the 1977 Star Wars original, has a beginning, middle, and an end that serves as a satisfying conclusion. The story could end quite satisfyingly upon Marty's successful return to the new version of his life in 1985, right after Doc takes off for 2015. Doc Brown coming back at the end is a nice, tempting setup for Part 2, but not too much would have been taken away from this story had it been left out. In fact, even though I wouldn't change a thing with this movie, if this story hadn't allowed for sequels, it could have closed very well with Marty seeing his now happy parents and being reunited with Jennifer.
Is everything all right?
Oh, yeah. Everything is great.
Back to the Future establishes its story and resolves its story. Most sequels, by design, don't do this. Sequels function as chapters in a book, but not a book in itself. If they're a Part 2, they depend on Part 1 for the setup and character development, and if they're not the final film of the series, then they fail to have a meaningful ending. Even when they choose a stopping point that's logical, they never resolve the primary conflict because they can't. But Back to the Future resolves, and does so in one of the most exciting final 25 minutes of a third act that you'll ever see. I had the pleasure of seeing this in the theater, and it can't be overstated just how much a good film, viewed in a theater, is made even better at proper scale. I liked Ford vs. Ferrari on my large format flat screen, but I loved it in the theater, and the experience was noticeably richer. Let's return to the main topic. Good acting, good production, and good editing can improve a mediocre script, but great films require a great premise and the writing to support it. This is why post-Lucas Star Wars failed. There's not enough polish or production value in the world to save the failed ideas that were the Star Wars sequels. They were doomed at conception. At the heart of Back to the Future is the inextricable relationship between choices and consequences in time. If Marty cannot convince Doc Brown that he's from the future and not crazy, then Marty will never get back to 1985 to see his family again. If Marty can't get his uber-passive father to stand up for himself and win the affection of Lorraine, then there's no point to Marty even trying to get home, because he'll cease to exist. And if Marty doesn't warn Doc about the arms dealers he'll cross in 30 years, then Doc goes bye-bye, and Marty will have to suffer the guilt of having withheld a life-saving secret. These points are merely to highlight how drama was baked into the script, and how high the stakes are in this supposedly silly popcorn film. If this isn't drama, I don't know what qualifies. These are life and death matters after all, and I fail to see how they're any less poignant because they happen to be in a film that's also light on its feet and funny. The seamless tonal transition of Back to the Future scenes and moments, silly and serious, never make it feel disjointed. The magic in this film is in the sequencing and editing, which allows Back to the Future to have a singular, eclectic identity. Which is impressive, because in terms of plot, there's even more to discuss. Without getting too far into the weeds, or in this case, barn, here's a quick refresher. Marty inadvertently ends up back in 1955 after getting in the time-traveling car to evade the men who just killed Emmett Brown, aka Doc, for double-crossing them in a deal he made for some plutonium. Marty's smart, but he's no physicist, and needs Emmett to devise a way to get him home in the DeLorean that's now out of the plutonium it needs to work again. Doc's solution is clever, and by extension, so is the screenwriting, because it simultaneously accomplishes two things for this story. One, it gives Marty and the audience a fantastic but plausible enough technical solution. Two, it uses the byproduct of time travel itself, in this case, knowledge of future events, to provide that solution. And the solution makes for a tense, visually stunning finale and requires the impeccable timing of the plot and characters. It's a f***ing brilliant solve for the story and the audience.